Welcome back, everybody. We're looking at firmware 14 for the Fx III. Since we're up to 14, that means there have been some amp modeling changes. This particular firmware has an update to the cathode follower modeling algorithm, which, if you're not savvy to these kind of terms, just basically means your Marshalls, your rectifiers, your Friedmans, your diesels, they're all going to sound pretty epic. So before we get into this, let's hear a quad-tracked rhythm guitar set with Recto 1 Red and Herbie Channel 2 Plus. Come back to those two tones in a second, but there are also some updates to existing models like the JMP1 models. They've been totally reworked, and there's some new amps. The new amp that I like the most is the Plexi 50-watt 6CA7 model, which you can see at stock settings on the screen now. I'm using this with my good old standard LT TV Mix 2 greenback cab. I've got the low cut at 60 Hertz today, just for something different. The low cut slope is at 24 dB per octave. Everything else is stock. The amp's at stock settings. This is a Les Paul with some Martin A. Smith PAF style pickups, and this sounds fantastic at the stock settings. It is pretty bright though, so I find turning up the bass, cranking the mids, maybe backing off the treble and the presence just a little bit with this amp, and also turning up the input drive on a real plexi. As you dime them up, the amps tend to smooth out a little bit. So turn the input drive up a bit and back your volume control down to about 7 or something, and it's giving you the same vibe, just a little less kind of intense in that high end. Oh, I like that a lot. You can play around with the power supply sag. I like turning it up. You could play around with the Variac if you like. The only other thing that I find with this particular amp model is playing around with the speaker type. For example, I really like the 4x12 Brit TV impedance curve with this one. That's an awesome model. It might be my favorite plexi model in the Fx III, which is saying a lot because all the plexis sound pretty amazing. The other new amp model is not the JM Pre. We'll come to that in a second. It is the Solo 99 lead Bright. So this is based on the old pink Soldano X99 with the Caswell rotating knobs. This sounds pretty good at stock settings. I'll just back the master volume down to about 4. I've been liking it about there. And let's go to 4. My mouse is clearly on the way out. All right, that will do. Let's hear this. If you like your late 80s, early 90s rack tones, this one's pretty fantastic as well. All right, I'm going to swap to the PRS single cut really quickly. Let's hear the Recto and the Herbie. I talked about the headroom parameter in Axe Edit last time, but I do want to talk about this really useful new feature. If you go Tools and you go Preset Leveling, you get this floating menu, so you can have it on Axe Edit or you can make it disappear and push it somewhere else. The screen cap won't capture that I've pushed it to a different side of the screen, unfortunately, so I'm just going to leave it up here. We don't need to really worry about output 2. I can see the meters and I've got amp 1 level, so I can play. So that is my Recto. It doesn't have a boost on it, which is unusual for me. I do normally like my rectifiers boosted. Maybe we'll hear that in a second. On channel B, though, I have got the Herbie. I can bring this preset leveling window back. And this is what channel 2 plus sounds like on the Herbie. These are the settings that I use on that little riff at the beginning. And that sounds a lot louder. I can actually get a visual on it there, so I might back my amp level down a bit. Then I can go back over to my Recto. Let's hear that. The way I would do this, though, is I would have the Recto scene and my Herbie scene on obviously separate scenes. I'll just disable this delay really quickly. And I would go from the front panel on my foot controller and go back and forth between them. And as you can see, the amp level is changing because I'm changing the channel in the amp block. So I can have that meter up at all times. Again, this screen cap wasn't the best way to capture it. Nonetheless, so I can gauge from the meters and I can use my ears to balance those two amps out. They still need a little bit of work, but you can hear there the Recto is like all high-end fizz and low-end boom, whereas the Herbie is a lot smoother but a lot more mid-rangey. And I find when quad tracking guitars, having that kind of juxtaposition of a really mid-heavy amp and a mid-scooped amp just creates this one Tyrannosaurus Rex of a guitar sound, which, hey, we're all chasing, right? So that is how the preset leveling works. It is so handy. You've also got the output 1 block level here, which is very nice indeed. If you're running 2 amps, you've got controls for both amps as well. It's the little things that make all the difference, and this is a fantastic feature. I absolutely love it. I leveled about 40 presets yesterday, and it just did the trick. Now, because I'm lazy, I'm someone who just basically uses one preset live, so I've never really gone through and leveled out all my presets. Now you can do it easily using this tool. So that's pretty awesome. The last thing that I want to have a look at is, let's look at the JM Pre models. Let's come over here. What did I have over here? The old, we're on the delay block, that's handy. Let's go to JM Pre 1 OD1. I'll just bring the gain back to 5. These sound really good at stock settings if you just want a straight up rock tone. That's awesome, right? There's the bass shift variation of OD1 modeled as well, which just gives you a little bit of extra beef. I actually like combining that with something like the T808 or the Super OD boost in the amp block. And I actually like to add a little bit of presence from the preamp as well. That one's really nice. JMP OD2 I'm not as into, but let's hear it anyway. This is without the bass shift. I have a JMP1 and I've got a Marshall DSL, and I do have to say they can sound pretty similar. So if you're chasing some JCM 2000 style tones, play around with straight up JMP1 OD1. I like that a lot. It's a really good platform if you want to put some drive pedals into it. The last 13 firmware had a bunch of great drive pedal additions, which I detailed in my last video. All right, there's a bunch of stuff with firmware 14. This was not a 5-minute tones video, but I hope there's some useful information and some little tips and tricks in here that make this video worthwhile. It's not just me kind of babbling away, noodling on the guitar, although there is a lot of that. So I have to say thank you so much for watching the video. You can update this from FractalBot, from the Fractal website, or from the Fractal forum. As always, if you have any specific questions, let me know in the comments. Until next time, stay safe, be good to one another. I'll see you next time, but not before some more incessant noodling. This is using the Mark IV model with a whole bunch of gain and delay. Cheers!